What do you do when your job drains you, but quitting just isn't possible? Maybe your boss drives you crazy. Maybe the work feels meaningless, but with bills to pay and family depending on you, you're stuck. So, how do you survive? And maybe even turn things around? We'll dive into the answers in this video. If you're new here, hi, I'm Luki, and I create educational videos on what you didn't know you needed to know about jobs, careers, and life. If you're looking for some practical tips, advice, and life lessons, subscribe to stay up to date. Before we jump into solutions, the first step is to get clear on what you actually want instead. Because if you don't know where you're heading, you'll just keep circling back to the same problems. We can follow our proven career success approach: what, why, and then how. Take a bit of time to think about what you want to be doing instead. What do you enjoy most about what you do, or just in general? You want to build a vision of what you want to move towards. Because if you just move away from what you don't enjoy, then you often end up in the same stuff, different pile. You can consider doing some 5-2-1 journaling. 5 minutes a day, 2 minutes on what you did that drained you, 2 minutes on what you did that energized you, and 1 minute on what you could do to minimize the first and maximize the second. The goal is to build a role with more of the parts that you do enjoy. And if you really can't find things that you enjoy about your work or that energizes you, you can focus on the parts that you hate, write them down, then write the opposite. That would be your new target goal. Okay, so now you've got clarity on what you want, but clarity alone won't keep you going. This is where your why comes in. Without a strong why, it's too easy to stay stuck or give up when things get tough. The first part of why is to outline why you want to leave. The most common reasons are toxic work environment, be it a toxic coworker, bad boss, or poor leadership, then lack of growth or advancement, being overworked, burnt out, and feeling undervalued. For a toxic work environment, it's often good to verify it's toxic. Sometimes toxicity is just a misunderstanding, or sometimes it's a difference in work style. One common example is micromanagement. I sometimes hear, my boss is toxic. They're always checking in and micromanaging. Sometimes it's not distrust, but instead it's a manager who's insecure, new, or doesn't know how to delegate. Clear communication and setting expectations can help. You might feel that checking in once a week is enough, but your boss wants to check in every day. A 5-minute daily email might be better for everyone instead of spending half an hour with them every week. I also had someone say, nobody communicates here. It's just meetings for the sake of meetings. When digging into it, their last company used a messaging system like Slack for most of their communication. Whereas in their new company, they overemphasize synchronous meetings. Whether it's style or frequency, taking time with your boss and team to align on expectations can be super helpful. Of course, not every challenge at work comes from toxicity. Sometimes the issue is more simply feeling like you're going nowhere. So let's talk about growth and advancement. For a work environment that seemingly doesn't have growth and advancement opportunities, you will want to take some time to calibrate. I work with a client who thought they were pretty stagnant in their role. They started hating their job because it was so routine and didn't see the opportunities for growth and advancement. But when digging in, they didn't take the opportunity to have conversations with their boss to see how they could expand their role and learning. They didn't connect with other folks in different groups around the company to see if there were different opportunities. And they didn't seek out mentors inside or outside the company to help them grow. Once they did, they found lots of opportunities for growth and advancement. Sometimes your company has a well-structured program that puts growth and advancement at the forefront. And sometimes you have to find growth and advancement opportunities on your own. But what if growth isn't the problem? What if the problem is that you're just completely exhausted or don't feel valued at all? For burnout, I was mentoring someone who said, I'm so burnt out. There's no work-life balance here. I asked a simple yet profound question to them. Who is responsible for work-life balance? And it turns out that this person was very bad at saying no. They'll take on projects and responsibilities regardless of what they have on their plates. I coached them to have a conversation with their boss, who thought they'd love the work and learning, which is why they were always saying yes. Their boss worked with them to help manage their priorities, and they were able to learn to set their own boundaries. Turns out they were responsible for their own burnout. For being undervalued, I mentored someone who said, "They never appreciate me. I feel so undervalued." We discussed a concept called the 5 appreciation languages. If you've heard of the 5 love language by Gary Chapman, he applied them to the workplace. They're words of affirmation, acts of service, quality time, gifts, and physical touch. Each person has a top 1 or 2, and oftentimes doing one of those can be 5 or 10 times or even more effective than that versus the bottom ones. And it turns out that this person's top appreciation language was quality time, and one of their lowest ones was words of affirmation. When reflecting on their interactions with their boss, the boss would often praise their work, but unfortunately, those words of affirmation were falling on deaf ears. They had a conversation and implemented a bi-weekly personal one-on-one where they would take a walk or have lunch to connect as people instead of talking about work. And with just 1 hour a month, they felt more valued than they had ever done in a previous role. At this point, you might realize you don't actually hate your job. You just needed to approach it from a different perspective. Now, if you really do hate your job and you're in a toxic environment, see no growth or advancement opportunities, or your boss is causing the burnout and purposely undervaluing you, then it's probably worth a switch. The second part of why is to take some time to understand why you want that new role. Presumably, you have the what from the previous step. But why do you want that role? Yes, to escape your current work environment, but as I mentioned before, if you're running away, you often end up in the exact same, if not a very similar spot. Do you want the role you brainstormed because other people around you feel it's a good fit? Because your parents or family are expecting that of you? Or do you really feel like it's you? A 5 whys exercise could be helpful. For the role you want, ask yourself, why is being in that role important to you? Then for that response, why is that important to you? 4 more times, and you'll have your core why. And remember, no repeats, and make it about you. Now that you know what you want and why you want it, it's time to move into action. Here's how you can start making that shift, even if you can't quit right away. First, warm up your network and start having a bunch of coffee chats. Spruce up your LinkedIn, set up your job alerts, practice interview responses, and apply. And reach out to your friendly neighborhood career coach if you want some help. So let's recap. If you hate your job but can't quit, find your what, why, then how. First, what it is you want, perhaps building off of what you know you don't want. Second, verify if it's really toxic or just a misunderstanding. Validate if there are growth or advancement opportunities that you might be missing. Plus, check if what you're really facing is burnout or feeling undervalued, because sometimes the issue isn't the job itself, but how we're experiencing it. Finally, engage in the job search and get help when you need it. At the end of the day, every job teaches you something, whether it's a skill, a relationship, or simply clarity on what you don't want. The key is to use your current job as a stepping stone towards something better, instead of staying stuck. If this video gave you a new perspective, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'd love to hear your story in the comments, because you never know who it might help. Remember, you don't have to love your job forever, but you can always learn from it today. Before you click off, if you'd like to find your purpose, click here. And if you want to level up your mindset, click here. Until next time, be focused and stay inspired.